Hey everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well today. In this video, we're going to be discussing a new sort of project series that I want to start on this channel. And the reason I want to start this series is because not only will it be episodic, but secondly, it will help me to tackle the books that are on my Physical TBR, which I'm hoping will be a way to sort of help me tackle the Physical TBR a little bit faster with a little bit more direction, because sometimes, because I'm a mood reader, I find that it's really hard to have direction, and then I get into a space where I have a bit of analysis paralysis and I'm not really looking at the books not necessarily critically, but in a way critically, because I'm a very critical person by nature. And sometimes, I don't know, I guess I'm inspired by this video because I had a sort of bad experience with The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, which I just finished yesterday, and I did not have as good of a time in that book as I wanted to. And that was kind of weighing heavy on me, and I was having trouble sort of deciding what book to start next, because I was feeling very down from what I felt was kind of like a failure, I guess you guys could say. I don't know. I just did not have a good time with that book. I'm starting to wonder if John Gwynne's writing is actually for me, because I don't find it as immersive as I would like, So while I did give The Shadow of the Gods 5 stars, The Hunger of the Gods went down to like a 3-star for me, so it was not great, and I'm still, as you can tell, in my feels about it a little bit. So I wanted to sort of change trajectories, because right now as I'm filming, we are the second week of July, and I still have 2 more weeks left of the month before I can give you the monthly wrap-up, and I've read... I don't have my journal handy, but I think I've read like 8 books or something this month so far. So there's still potential to read at least 3 more if I don't DNF any. And I am just feeling very, very directionless, and I'm not in a happy place right now. So what better way to solve this problem than to start an episodic series on this channel, where basically we are going to be looking at the covers of the books, trying to find similar themes or similar elements in the covers, and just reading down those things. So this is not a new idea. This is something that I have seen done on many YouTube channels. Most recently, it would have been Books and Lala, so shout out if you're watching. Basically, I have 3 books here that I'm going to start this series off with, and these are going to be books that have stags on the cover. Okay, so yeah, the idea was to go through my Physical TBR, find books that had similar elements on the cover, pull those off the shelves and read those, and then come to you guys with 1 or 2 episodes, depending on how many books I have that have those similar themes, and just read those books for these vlogs and tell you what they're about and whether or not I like them. And in this way, it's a more scaffolded approach to reading, which maybe I need, because even though I'm kind of a mood reader, sometimes it can be overwhelming to try and pick a book based on your mood if you're not really feeling anything that you have, or if I've just come out of, let's say, an epic fantasy. Yes, I could potentially get into another fantasy, but sometimes you just need a palate cleanser, or you just need, at least I find that I need a little more direction. So I don't know if that makes sense, but especially because when I just finished Hunger of the Gods, I was underwhelmed. I was just like, I hate to say it, but I was underwhelmed, and I really didn't want to be. So I don't know if that's because I was just not in the right mood and I kind of forced myself to read it, or whatever the story was. But in any case, I decided to pick up Walk the Vanished Earth, and that is kind of where I got this idea from. So I've already taken out books from my Physical TBR for like the next episodes that I'm already anticipating for the series, which are going to be books that have ships on the cover and books that have wolves on the cover. But I have a whole list of similar elements. Like I have, what to project, for this series, which would be like books that have birds on the cover, or dragons, or swords, or fish, or potentially mermaids, I don't know, and also books that feature vampires and, things like that, so that I can sort of both tackle my Physical TBR and also report to you guys on subjects that may be of interest. Okay, so that's being said, I've also decided that I'm not going to be taking out books from the library anymore, or placing holds on library books, because that is just interfering way too much with trying to get my Physical TBR read. It's too stressful. So I want to read a good 50 books that I own before I decide that I'm going to start taking out books from the library again, because what happens is, if I find an author that I really like, I'm holding up this book, but most recently I was thinking about Kelly Barnhill, whose book I just finished, which was, I think in June, I finished The Crane Husband. And then I went and checked out from the library When Women Were Dragons. and then I wasn't in the mood to read it, so then you don't have to read it. But what if you hang on to it and then somebody puts a hold on it, and then I feel guilty because I'm holding on to it? So it's just like, it was a mess in my head, and possibly I'm overthinking it, but hello, have you met me? Like, I always overthink everything. So this is me having a vlog, overthinking it again, and, just trying to make sense out of all the books that I own, so that, no one yells at me and says, Zahava, you don't read your books. I do read my books, but other things get in the way. Audiobooks get in the way. But audiobooks, I don't know. Is it really fair to count audiobooks? I don't know if it is, because you do need to read something or listen to something while you're driving or working or taking a walk. So I don't know if audiobooks really count, but whenever I have time to sit down and read books with my own two eyes, that's when I get into this sort of analysis paralysis or over analytic sort of mind frame, which I realize are two totally opposite feelings, but either one of those usually happens to me. So here we are. Okay. So, basically, the idea for this series is as such. I have picked a random topic for this vlog. We are going to have, for this vlog, which is episode 1, thank you so much for bearing with me and not unsubscribing. Love you all so much. So we're going to start with stags, all right? So the 3 books that I picked out for this vlog, there's emails coming in. The 3 books that I picked out for this vlog are Walk the Vanished Earth, which I've already started, but I'm not far in, maybe about a dozen pages or so. And then I only actually had 2 other books on my Physical TBR that would work for this vlog, which I think is fine because 3 books is a very respectable intro into a new series. And again, I'm filming this in July, but you guys could see this in August or in September. I really don't know how long it's going to take me to get to these books because I have other books that I need to be reading for the month of August for the TBR jar video that is either you have seen already or will see by the time you see this video. Not really sure. So I don't want to I don't want to back myself into a corner with too many books to read. So these episodic thematic cover videos will come out when they come out. But you guys want to see what these books are, right? So I'm just going to tell you. I have God Killer. It's not a big book, but it does have a stag on the cover. And then this one is kind of a cheat. It is Antelope Woman. It's not technically a stag, but I guess it could be because antelopes, I think, are in the deer family. So I'm going to count it because it's my channel and it's my challenge and my self-imposed challenge. And yeah, it's a way to just force myself to read a book by an author, no less, that I have no experience with. So these are all going to be authors that are new to me. These are going to be the books that I'm showing you the back of the book. These are going to be books that I'm going to be reading for this first episode. And then, I'll check in with you guys as I'm reading the books, if I'm having thoughts about them, just trying to do like a casual vlog, and it'll be perhaps clippy or perhaps not. Maybe I'll come back to you at the end of the book. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. It's going to be how it goes, how I feel, how life goes. And I just really appreciate you guys all for being here because you know what you're getting when you come here. It could very well be DNFs for all I know. So let's hope for the best. And we're going to start this series off with just these 3 books and see how it goes. I can tell you that right away, I'm going to have to split at least into 2 episodes, like part 1 and part 2, the ships and also the wolf books, because I have a lot of books that have ships on the cover and I have a lot of books that have, I think I have like 9 books with wolves on the cover. So that one will probably have to be like a part 1 and part 2, or maybe it'll be in 3 parts. I don't know. Because I talk a lot. You guys know this. I talk a lot. I do like to express my feelings out loud because it helps me to talk to you guys. It really, really does. It helps me to sort things out in my head. Talking out loud is really good for helping I think a lot of people to sort things out in their heads, and it's nice not to have to talk to myself. So thank you all so much for being here. I will check back with you again once I have made more progress in this book, but in the interim, I am going to upload this little clip onto my computer and do some editing because that's just the way I am. It's the way I roll, baby. It's the way I roll. So yeah, thanks for listening to this super long intro, and I really hope you guys enjoy the rest of the series. Where is the off button? There it is. So for my first update, it's going to be a little bit of a weird one. I sat down to read Walk the Vanished Earth and ended up passing out, having a nap, and just making it a few pages of the way in. Like maybe I'm about 30 pages of the way in, but it's been kind of a weird day. We woke up this morning and sometimes Maurice leaves, like we've got, so these are my back stairs, you guys. It's like a painted iron. It's pretty rusty, but we're renting, but it's an iron stairway and it goes way down. And so this morning, what happened was my downstairs neighbor is actually my landlord. I don't know if you can see it, but like down there is his balcony. And do you guys see that shadow? It's still kind of wet. So like that was a dead squirrel that we found on the balcony, my landlord's balcony this morning. So they had to wait for the SPCA to come and pick up the squirrel. And I had to go downstairs and actually just pick up a dead bird that was in the middle of the lawn. Somebody, I don't think it was Maurice, was hunting last night. So we don't know what kind of animals might be out here, but so now I'm just sitting outside and I'm trying to get some reading done. Clementine is here and she's asking to come out. So let's let her out. Hi, Clementine. She's here for her 15 minutes as usual. She never leaves the balcony. She always just comes to hang out. So I have my little setup here. I have my water. We're having another heat wave. I have some Cabernet Sauvignon and I have Walk the Vanished Earth by Aaron Swan. And I have Clementine, and I have lots of mosquito bites. I was not able to solve the problem with the mic with my cell phone, so I do have to use the system mic until maybe I'm going to try and figure out something, get like a different cord for my Rode and see if that works with the Rode app, because so far my phone is not recognizing the mic. So might have to do with the cable. So I'll see if I can get something that works. And until then, we read on.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, so it is a couple of hours later and I have made it about 97 pages into Walk the Vanished Earth. I've also changed into some lighter clothing because it's been pretty humid, even though it's kind of overcast right now. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about what is happening in this novel. And I think even 97 pages in, we're still kind of exploring where things are going. So far, because we're just page 97, we're actually being introduced to a fourth point of view character, but so far we've only been introduced to 3 point of view characters, one being Samson, the second being Moon, and the third being Bee. And Samson, we don't really know much about him. Up until this point, he's only had 2 chapters where we see things through his eyes. Mostly we've been following Bee, and then in mid-range we're kind of following Moon. So Samson is this guy who sort of starts off to kind of make a life, and he gets these like prescient dreams that tell him like who's going to marry and things like that, and whatever he dreams like tends to, I guess, come true. And then we have Moon, who when we're introduced to her, she's being taken care of. Sorry, there was something like on my arm I had to swat off there. Sorry for shaking the phone. But yeah, then we have Moon, who's actually living on Mars with 2 brothers who call themselves uncles. So she knows them as uncle, and they've named her Moon, and she has been living her whole life on Mars, and her uncles eventually like move her into this dome-like structure, and they start to teach her about plants and oxygen, and maybe they're starting to talk to her about possibly generating or beginning a civilization on Mars in that dome-like structure. And she's about 14 years old. We have airplanes. We have airplanes, you guys. And then lastly, we have Bee, and we've been seeing Bee mostly in this novel up until now. And Bee is wandering. She's sort of wandering in the Midwest USA. And she is pregnant, and she is 12 years old. So I'm not going to say too much about that because that will be sort of divulged in the story. But basically, she is found as she's trying to survive. She tries to steal some groceries from a grocery store. This is in about 1975. And she's kind of breaks into somebody's house, and the owners of the house find her, and then she gets taken in by a psych ward, and they are sort of trying at this point to suss out what her history might be, because understandably she's mute and she's not really talking too much about her history. Whether it's because of amnesia or because she doesn't have the vocabulary remains to be seen. So Samson's storyline is not too clear, but I think I understood from the dust jacket of the book that we're following a few generations of the same family. So maybe, or I guess obviously Bee is related to Samson in some way. Well, actually, by page 97, you kind of know how she's related to Samson, but I'm not going to say how because I want you guys to read the book. So, feelings. So far, very atmospheric, slow paced, but in a way that makes you want to turn the pages. I particularly like Bee's point of view scenes because they actually vacillate between her point of view. So you see like the messed upness of Bee's whatever's going on in her brain, but also you see Dr. Carson's point of view And he's actually giving you medical reports about his sessions in therapy with B, which are very interesting. So you get to see his observations and all of the tests that he's tried, and like how he views her and how she views him through her thwarted mental state. So far, I'm really liking it, and I'm finding the book super easy to get through. I would say that like B's chapters, because you're actually like in her mind, can be a little like a fever dream. It can be like a fever dream. Things don't always make sense, but I think they're beginning to the further along that we get into this book. So I'm feeling really good about it. So far, I'm inching toward a 4-star, but that's just my feels at the beginning of the book. I'm going to check in with you guys a little bit later when I know some more, maybe in another 100 pages or so, or, you know, maybe at the end. I don't really know. It depends how fast I read, but so far I'm really liking it. I'm a little concerned about Moon, who's living on Mars with her 2 uncles, because her uncles are actually not uncles, they're aliens. And they actually communicate with her telepathically, which is really interesting. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about the novel now. I'm liking it. I'm really liking it. Like, it's interesting. It's not like anything that I've ever read before. So, yeah, I will get back to you with more findings soon. So stay tuned.
One eternity later.
Hey guys, so I just went ahead and finished the rest of the book. I thought that maybe I would come back to you and let you know a little bit later in the book, you know, after the first 100 pages, I was going to check in with you guys again. But in the end, I just went ahead and finished it. I had some crazy, you know, last few days, and the reading took me a little longer than expected, but that is not the fault of the novel. That is just my particular schedule, and I was not able to complete this book as quickly as I had wanted to. But this is a real surprise. It's a real surprise. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. So essentially what you have in this book is you have a world that's being slowly swallowed up by water, and it's vanishing to the point where even the Colorado Rocky Mountains are starting to, the snow caps are kind of melting, and, you know, the world is being, as I said, taken over by water. And you're following 7 generations of the same family as they go through various traumas and tribulations to get you to the point where we have colonized Mars. And that happens in the year 2040 something, about then. So here we have a climate fiction dystopian sci-fi which follows the members of a family through 7 generations as the world is slowly being swallowed up by water, and it essentially focuses on what human beings will do to survive and how far we will go. But it also explores other themes like motherhood, queerness, right to choose, and we watch how the different members of the families adjust to their realities and also have to deal with their past traumas and relationships. And I would say that this book is not a fast-paced book, though it is a sci-fi and you do have an element which takes place on Mars. It's not a fast-paced book, so you can't really expect a lot of action. It really is like speculative. It is a character-driven novel, not necessarily plot-driven, because we really are focused on the characters and we're following the characters and their inner thought processes. So it's not going to be an action-packed thriller for those of you that are looking for a space opera or for things that are going to be moving and shaking. That is not at all what this novel is. It's really a slow-paced, eerie, it's like kind of a mood. You're in a sort of, you almost feel like you're sort of suffocating with the characters that are in this novel. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad or anything. It's just not a novel where there's a lot of plot points happening. So if that's something that will turn you off, then maybe you want to stay away from this one. If you're willing to go with the flow and be swept up in a chronicle, then I think that this would probably work for you. I think that it reminds me mostly of the film Waterworld, but sans Dennis Hopper and the explosions and all of the nefarious sort of things that are going on there. I think it's more like how connected we feel to the earth and what we will do to try and maintain that even as the world is being swallowed up by water. So hopefully what I've said has made sense to you guys. I was originally going to rate this book 3 or 3.5 stars, but I will admit that the very last sentence of the book actually kind of jerked a tear out of me because it was just so wholesome that I did round it up or end up rating it 4 stars, like a very healthy, very confident 4 stars for me. So Walk the Vanished Earth, this will be the first book completed in the cover series that I'm doing with a stag.